I'm very familiar with the feeling of not being good enough at things that I do. Even if I've been doing them for a long time, even if people keep telling me how good I am at this thing, I still feel like a fraud sometimes. I just feel like, one day these people will finally figure out that I'm just not as great at these things. Now, this feeling is known as imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is something I think happens to a lot of people, especially people who are creatives. I belong to the school of thought that says you should always address the root cause of an issue before trying to tackle the issue. I believe that imposter syndrome is not something that stands on its own. It's usually caused by something else. And until you tackle that, you can't actually tackle imposter syndrome. Based on personal experience and observations, I think imposter syndrome usually stems from one of these three things: comparison, perfectionism, and lack of confidence. Sometimes we underestimate our own genius. People see things about us before we even notice it about ourselves. But because you're so highly critical of yourself and the things that you do, it is hard for you to realize that progress is being made. Even though you can't see it, people around you can. Sometimes you need to understand that your view from the middle of things is different from someone who's looking from outside at what you're doing. They can see the progress, they can see the improvements. You think it's baby steps, you think you're not moving, but that person sees it. One thing I've noticed about imposter syndrome is that it really holds you back from feedback, because you tend to fall in this cycle of not feeling like you are the genius everyone says you are, and then letting that push you to not put any of your work out there. The imposter syndrome basically just makes you stop and question everything. That keeps you stagnant because you don't get to get feedback from people or constructive criticism from people, because they're not even seeing anything you're doing. One thing I'd say that has helped with my imposter syndrome is me accepting the stage of learning. Even though I've called it the stage of learning, learning is not really a stage, it is just a continuous cycle. Accept the continuous cycle of learning, because it's something that you will keep doing till the day you leave this earth. We are all going to remain students till the day we die. We cannot know everything. One thing I've realized is that even the people you look up to, even the most successful people in your field, they're still learning. Like, they don't know it all. They can't know it all. It is impossible. Knowledge is infinite. So understanding that even people who seem to have it all together also have doubts just like you every once in a while. Like I mentioned earlier, lack of confidence is a major cause of imposter syndrome. And I think that confidence can only be built when you put yourself out there. There is no other way. There is no amount of pep talk I want to give in this video that will boost your confidence. I can tell you, believe in yourself, raise your shoulders, dress nice, smell good. Trust me, all of that is good. I mean, it helps you psych yourself up. But the truth is, until you put yourself out there, you will never ever truly get the confidence you need that helps you silence that voice in your head that keeps saying your work is not good enough, or that you're a fraud and people should not be listening to what you have to say. Let's talk about comparison. A lot of us compare ourselves to people who seem to be doing better than us, people who we personally consider geniuses. And we wonder, but why do people even say I'm good at this thing? Like, can you even look at this person and see what they're doing and you're saying I'm good? I shouldn't even be mentioned in the same statements with these other people that I look up to. Even the people you look up to, the people that you think are doing so great at what they're doing and are way better than you, also have that feeling every once in a while, or feeling like, why do people think I'm that smart? Like, am I really? Some of them do. Some of them have those feelings too. They're human beings just like you. This is a human thing. It is not a function of how good you are or if you are the best in your field. I think almost everyone, unless you have some insane amount of confidence in your abilities, would have experienced that feeling of inadequacy. Cut yourself some slack, baby. You are a human being. You will make mistakes, you will fail, you will succeed. It is the natural sequence of life. Perfectionism, in my opinion, is very closely linked with imposter syndrome. It is very, very, very common to be a perfectionist and have imposter syndrome. I think that the two go hand in hand because they are very similar. I made a video on perfectionism. I'm not going to go too deep into that. I'll link it in the cards. If you are someone who has experienced imposter syndrome or is experiencing imposter syndrome, that means to me that you genuinely and deeply care about doing whatever it is you're doing well. And trust me, it's not something that everyone out there aspires to do. There are a lot of people doing the same thing you want to do half-heartedly, and the only difference between you and them is that they have the balls to do it. And the fact that you truly care about what you're doing is a strength. It means that you put your all into it. It means that you will give it everything you have to make sure that it comes out right. A lot of us feel very unmotivated when we have imposter syndrome, and it's expected. It doesn't feel that great to feel like you don't know what you're doing. I think that it is very possible to turn your weaknesses into strengths. And sometimes it is just the way that you look at your weakness that is the problem, the perspective you are looking from, that is the problem. When you look at imposter syndrome on surface level, it's just like, oh, this is all negative, I don't feel good, this does not make me feel good. And I agree. Okay, I really do. This is something that I personally struggle with. But at the same time, I also believe that we have these feelings because we really care. And that is something that should be valued. You could definitely go the route of suppressing your imposter syndrome every time it comes up, but without addressing the root issues, the causes of your imposter syndrome, I'm sorry to tell you, baby, you're never truly going to get the hang of it. It's most likely going to keep getting worse and worse until it becomes this crippling sensation that stops you from doing anything at all. Sometimes when you fall into that cycle of not feeling good enough at what you do or feeling like a fraud, it's important to look at things objectively. Take a step back, look at your progress, look at where you started from, look at where you are now. Seeing things from an unbiased perspective really puts things in perspective for you without that feeling clouding your judgment. I hope you found this video useful. I have my video on perfectionism right here and another video right here for you to check out. I will see you in my next one. Adios.